The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.
Rise! Get yourselves together! Rise! Stand up and live your life! Rise! Get yourselves together! Rise! Hands up high!
Heidi Mancini.
And before we get to our special guest, do we have any announcements?
We just wanted to thank Meal Prep Vegas for prepping your food and being a sponsor of our show, Rise Above. Jay Jung from City Athletic, he also sponsors our show. So we want to make sure we say thank you to him.
Perfect. And real quick, I've got this here. It says, healthy meals made fresh and delivered, calorie counted and measured, organic ingredients, no GMO. It is organic and preservative free. So mealprepvegas.com. Phone number 702-624-9286.
And one thing Marie wanted to mention too is those foods, they're prepared the way that you like them. So whatever you want, that's what she'll do. And for competitors, she will do the bare essentials if that's what you want. But she wanted people to know that she doesn't just do chicken and rice, that she'll do other healthy entrees for, everyday eating.
You lost me at healthy.
Well, the thing is that you can't have certain oils and stuff, and healthy. John, you're supposed to start working out with me.
I know.
Well,
I gotta get a haircut first.
all right, we'll talk about it tomorrow.
A haircut? There's only like one left. I'm just...
That wasn't... Did you hear what he just said? He's in control of our show.
Now,
Due to technical difficulties.
Your show will not be posted.
So today we have a very special guest. He just finished writing a book, and we're going to talk about that, and we're going to go into his life a little bit, I hope. And we'll probably talk about bodybuilding because it's something he doesn't know about because he doesn't really work out. I'm kidding. So this is Andrew Mitchell.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Yeah, this is going to be really good. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself before we dig into your book.
A little bit about myself. How
like
far
right
back?
now. Like, what are you doing now?
Right now, I am a professional fitness trainer here in Las Vegas at City Athletic Club. I did just publish my most recent book, The Warrior Within. I actually just finished writing another one titled Unstoppable, which is a personal growth book I'm really excited about launching. And I stay busy writing and training people. I have my first baby on the way in August. I'm excited about.
Well, congratulations.
Yes,
Babies
thank
are
you.
cool.
So,
My baby's sitting over there.
so yeah, I'm busy all the time.
Wow. So you're going to be a father.
I am.
Wow.
Scary and exciting.
Now that I've read your book, I know that that's going to be a huge challenge for you. So we'll get into that a little bit more.
Absolutely.
But when you wrote the book, when you sat down to write it, what was the why did you feel like the need to put it on paper?
That's a good question. I actually started writing that book when I was 24 years old. I'm 36 now. And when I first started writing it, age of 24, I was really starting to become aware of who I was as a young man. And I started writing it, and honestly, the first few chapters were incredibly hard. I cried a lot, stopped a lot, pushed through it, because as I learned, a lot of us repress life experiences because they're painful, and writing this book brought them all out to the surface. Right. First I thought I was crazy. I'm like, do I really want to share all this? Do I want people to know me inside and out like that? But then there's an inner voice saying, yes, you need to share this. But I only got to 5 chapters initially. Then the enemy voice within was like, no one's going to read your story. Who are you? You're nobody. You're nothing. And I put it on hold for 5 years. And then actually Danny Johnson is one of my mentors. She's an awesome success coach, entrepreneur, author, and attending one of her events, First Steps to Success, we talk about your desire and what you've been designed to do in life, and my heart just started talking to me like, you need to finish this book. And she coached me and encouraged me, and I actually completed the book when I was 28, about 29 years old, and I gave her the first copy, just printed out on my computer. And then all of a sudden that same voice is like, well, one, also there was no knowledge of how I was going to publish it. I sent it out to different companies, and sorry, we appreciate you, inquiring, but we're just not interested in that right now. So I put it on hold. And again, you have those voices like, well, who wants to read your story? I always thought I had to be rich and successful and famous before somebody would want, oh, what's his story? What's his background? Where did he come from? But just recently, my brother, Christopher, he's 2 years older than I am. He's now self-published 16 books. And his first one is Write Your First Book. It's titled Write Your First Book. He actually just got #1 on Amazon list, bestseller, last week. So congratulations, Christopher. But he goes, dude, didn't you write a book forever ago? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, why haven't you published it yet? I'm like, I don't know how to. He's like, no more excuses. Here's my book. So I edited the entire thing because it has been so long before I looked at it.
Yeah.
And again, more tears remembering all that stuff. And then finally I self-published it, and I feel that it's meant to be out there because there's so many of us that struggle with our own issues, and a lot of us think we're the only one and nobody understands us. But I hope and plan that my story will touch people's lives and empower them.
What is one of your issues?
What is or was?
Or was.
I hope they're not anymore. The first one, in chronological order, I would say going through my mother. She was only 35 years old, died of breast cancer, and I was 7 years old. And my parents were already divorced from my earliest memories, and I was a mama's boy. My mom was my whole world. So, man, that was, you're 7 years old, you hear, oh, your mom's sick, But at 7 years old, you don't really understand that she's dying, and you're going to lose her. So I'll never forget the morning I woke up, and we were living at my dad's place, and my mother had 6 sisters. They had 7 kids, my grandparents, and the whole family is in the kitchen, huddled around each other. And little boy getting up in the morning, I'm just planning on walking into the kitchen and getting my favorite Fruity Pebble cereal or something, and I see all my family there, and at first I was excited to see them. I'm like, oh my goodness, you're at my house. I love you guys. But then there's this look of terror that came over their faces, and spiritually, energetically, they conveyed the message to me before they even said a word. And then you get this empty, dark feeling inside, and I'll never forget. I describe it in my book. It was like this 10-headed dragon. Everyone began to speak and fire their flames all at once, and like, your mother died last night. It's okay. She's in heaven now. It was in her dream. It was in her sleep. It was peaceful. She didn't hurt. She doesn't hurt anymore. But the words that stuck out that I'll never forget, that have defined my life, good and bad, is the words of my father, who's a Vietnam vet, and he says, "Stay strong." And I just faded away, and they're all trying to, hold me and hug me, and I didn't want to be touched. I pushed them away, and I literally feel like I faded into the wall, and I just slid down the wall and held my head in my hands, and I don't ever remember getting up from that spot, honestly. It was so traumatic to me as a 7-year-old, but you wake up and you're still living life. But yeah, so that was that was the first issue in my life that I really had to battle, and I battled.
Who took care of you after your mom died?
Our dad, full time. We moved in with our dad now, so that was exact opposite of the life we had with our mom.
Go back just a little bit. Before your parents got divorced, what did you see? Because you were 7.
Mm-hmm.
So did you see a good relationship up until that point, and then something just kind of happened, or was there incidents in there too?
I never saw a good relationship between my father and my mother. like I said, they were divorced from my earliest memories. I had a stepmother. My mom, we lived with our mom. We saw our dad, but every 2 or 3 weeks for the weekends. And my brother and I hated spending time with our dad because he was so
Militant?
Yes, so militant, absolutely. But mean, unhappy. And so we would, I would hide in our bedroom and write or watch movies. My brother's outside playing with the neighborhood kids. And, if I wasn't in the bedroom hiding, I was outside playing sports with my brother too. So no, I just remember the yelling that went on in the household between my dad and my stepmother at that time. There was it's sad to say, and that's why I was embarrassed to write a lot of my childhood, but other than sports and writing saved my life. And there wasn't a lot of happy times I remember experiencing with my dad as a child. So yeah, we hated it.
Was he violent towards you?
He was very violent. I thank God, probably because I was so small. I was always the runt on my sports teams. I was always a small kid growing up. He probably was afraid he'd kill me if he beat me too hard. We got a belt hard. I was afraid to death of the belt. But my older brother, he's 2 years older than I am. He got he got beat a lot harder than I did. And my stepmother put up with a lot, and that was very painful being a child. And one, you lose your mother, and then you have to move into this household that is completely backwards from the way you were raised with your angelic mother. And it was feeling helpless, being a child, like not understanding what's going on or why, and then being helpless, not even being able to stop the madness. That was just one of the hardest things. So that was too common. It was too common. I wish it wasn't, but it happened all the time.
So you didn't have much for a safe place?
No, my safe place was, again, sports. And I'll tell you a story what happened with my writing, how I got into writing. Like, after our mother died, I must have just closed off to the world. And my brother was pretty quiet as well. So our dad started taking us to different therapists and counselors, because I'm sure the relatives were like, you need to get these boys to talk about their feelings and emotions. And my older brother's my hero. He's the one who raised me. So I followed what he did. He led, I followed. So he would sit there. I remember sitting on different couches and chairs in these therapists' office, and they're trying to pick our brains and have us share our feelings about losing our mom. And he just sit there, arms crossed, not say a word. And after probably about the fourth or fifth therapist, I think my dad felt like, oh, it's a therapist. Like, maybe it's got to take them to the right person that they'll be able to communicate with them. It was at the fourth or fifth therapist we went to, and after hearing my dad complain about all the money he's wasting and not understanding a child's mindset or mood revolving this situation, finally my brother spoke up. And our fifth and last therapist, and he said, so Christopher, tell me a little bit about, how do you feel about, your mother passing? And then here I am just sitting here like, well, he's not going to say anything. We're going to hear my dad argue with the guy and yell at us, and 10-15 minutes we'll be out of here. And my brother said, why? What does it matter? He said, no matter what you say, no matter what I say, my mother's still dead. There's nothing we can do to bring her back. And I think everybody was in shock because my dad hadn't heard him communicate at all. The therapist knew the report of not saying anything, and that was pretty much it. There was like the anger, the pain, the sadness, everything just enveloped. And we ended up leaving shortly thereafter because that's all that was spoken. And from fast forward, probably weeks went by, me just being silent. My Aunt Sharon, one of my mother's sisters, came over to the house, my dad's house, and knocked on my bedroom door because I hid in my bedroom all the time. And I opened the door, and it's my aunt. I was like so happy to see her. It's like my mother's side of the family kind of stopped. We stopped seeing them pretty much after my mom died, except maybe on great holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas. So she's like, called me Andy growing up instead of Andrew. It's like, Andy, will you go for a walk with me around the block? I want to talk to you. And I was honored that she came to see me. So I was like, yeah. So she said, first off, I'm not going to tell you I understand how you feel, because my mom, your grandmother, is still alive. And she said, but she was my sister, Becky. And she said she was an amazing woman and everybody loved her. And she's like, I'm not going to, I know your dad's been taking you guys to therapists, and he's trying to get you to talk to your guidance counselor at school, and you haven't said a word. And she's like, I'm not telling you that you need to speak to some stranger and tell them how you feel. And she's like, but there's somehow, some way you need to express yourself to get your feelings out. And she's like, that means, going in your bedroom and writing a letter to your mom, and I know you're mad at God, so maybe you should write a letter to God as well. And, and she's like, maybe that's the answer, but somehow you need to express yourself. And when she left that day, that's exactly what I did. And I wrote a letter to my mom. I wrote a letter to God. And just the release, oh my goodness. Like the weight of the world was lifted on my shoulders. It just began to get lighter. And from that moment forth, I wrote every day with poetry, short stories, which now led into screenplays and books. So, writing has saved my life in so many ways. That's how I got into writing.
I think counseling is good. Joe's a marriage and family counselor, but I think there's certain times in our life when things are very intimate in our experiences that it's hard sometimes, and especially as a child, to sit across from a perfect stranger and all of a sudden pour your guts out to some person you don't know.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of kids at older ages sometimes do, because they don't have an outlet. The writing, the counseling, they go to counselors, that doesn't work. I don't know. I just think that
true.
we put so much emphasis.
People,
like your dad said, you guys need to go to counselors. You need to go to counselors. And with him being a counselor, it's got to be difficult. I know I've been in counseling myself too. And you walk in a room and it's exactly what you said, that you sit across from them, and no matter how nice they are, no matter how much they know, you're like, I got to pour my guts out and be vulnerable to this person. I don't even know. I can't even do that with my boyfriend because I don't want to be judged. But
Absolutely.
So I'm glad you found writing.
Thank you. I am too.
Yeah.
Did you ever get involved in drugs, like pot or anything?
More
anything
than pot.
like to try to hurt your body?
A lot more than pot.
He's like, don't ask me that question. I drank when I was a teenager. I got into alcohol a little bit.
See, as a teenager, because sports, again, sports was my other outlet. I was very health conscious. I got into bodybuilding at the age of 13 and 14. So I smoked a little bit of weed probably at the age of 14 or 15, but then it was like, okay, wrestling season's coming. There's been a lot of moments in my life where I've just had aha moments and I've awakened, and I'm like, okay, I can't do this. So I stopped for a while, and probably at the age of 14 or 15 I stopped and didn't smoke weed or do any other drugs until probably 18 or 19, and that's the beginning of a whole deep issue. It took a while to overcome.
So let's take the bodybuilding and the wrestling that you did and stuff like that. It gave you an outlet for sure, but do you feel like it wasn't handling the root cause? Kind of was just like you were just exerting power and and just trying to feel a good type of pain.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A lot of it just also to have with bodybuilding, which I'm sure you completely understand, is having some kind of control over something.
Oh yeah.
And because my life was so out of control, to be able to be so regimented. I can eat 6 to 8 meals a day, work out for 2 hours 6 days a week, eat, sleep, train. I can control the way my body looks and feels. And besides the self-esteem benefit I got and the self-worth that it started granting me in my life, and I believe that's why I got into martial arts and wrestling at a young age, feeling so hopeless and out of control and not being able to stop the abuse going on in my own home. It was a way to get stronger, physically is what all I saw it at that time, because I wanted to be some hero and save the day of protecting my stepmother and my brother. And then bodybuilding, yeah, it helped me become bigger and stronger, and just adding that to the wrestling and the martial arts, it was like, okay, now it was leading up to one day culminating to one day, like, I'm going to stop all this, no more abuse is going to happen in my presence. And then also with the bodybuilding, it was just a bigger shell to hide all my insecurities in. The bigger I got, it's like, okay, I had a lot of insecurities, so I need to get big to hide all this. And, everything looks great on the outside, but on the inside, it's a storm.
And I'm glad you said that, because I've said that. We say that about a lot of issues. When you look at somebody, you can look at them, and when you see somebody that's overweight, obesely overweight, you can go, there's a lot of pain right there. And this skin and flesh is covering, all that. And it's the same thing when you see somebody that's an anorexic.
Absolutely.
You could look at them and go, yeah, there's some problems going on there too.
Absolutely.
It's like a protection, like you said.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the, if I use the word, I don't know if you find it offensive, but one of the Bibles, I would say, for bodybuilding is Bob Paris's book.
Love it.
The
Gorilla suit?
little boy in their gorilla suits. Can we relate to little boys in our gorilla suits, right?
Absolutely.
Like for me, and it kind of sounds like you too, it's like at some point I was just tired of being small. I was tired of watching a woman be, let's say, dominated. That's the nicest word I could use. Yeah. And you're like, you know what? At some point, I'm going to have the power to strike back, and this will not happen in my presence. I will not allow it.
Amen.
And it took a certain amount of anger and violence and pain to be able to be put in that position, right? So when I look at you, I think, yeah, I mean, you're very well developed. I also think, wow, there's a lot of pain there. There's got to be, not just to develop that, but I mean to what you thought you needed to overcome.
It's interesting because there's so much pain and anger that there's two different experiences in my life of me getting all that pain and anger out in violent activities. One, 21 years old, I'm wrestling in college, and I'm 19 years old, and I started drinking a lot, but it was at the age of 21. Cocaine and alcohol and weed and those are, and ecstasy, those are my demons. And I got in a fight at least once a week, road rage, pulling over on someone, hopping out of their car and me beating them up on the side of the highway. It was a mess. Going into a bar, someone bump into you before they could even apologize, I'm hitting them and knocking them on the ground. It was horrible. And it was one day, it woke me up, is I was living in Columbus, Ohio. I had a girlfriend in Cleveland, Ohio. It's a 2-hour drive north. And on this drive to Cleveland, same thing. Guy cuts me off. I flick him off, curse words. And, he's motioning me to pull over. So I'm like, oh, it's on. And I pull over on the side of the highway. And I'm all, strutting back there, getting ready to handle this business. And he's sitting in his car still. And he's like, you want some of this? I'm like, yeah, let's go, bro, let's go. He's like, you want some of this? I'm like, get out of your car. And he points a gun at me. He's like, you want some of this? And my whole life flashed between my whoa, no, I don't want it. No, I'm cool, brother. I'm cool. He's like, get back in your effing car. I'm like, who? So I got back in my car and my heart's shaking. I'm like, my hands are shaking. I'm like, what are you doing, bro? Like, looking in the mirror at myself, not even recognizing myself. Like, what are you doing? What are you thinking? And that was the last time I ever got in a fight on the highway.
You should thank that guy.
Hey, if you're out there, I was a punk kid at 21. You pointed a gun at me. Thank you for saving my life.
But I think he proved to you two things, right? The first one is,
not bulletproof.
You don't start fights out of nowhere.
Correct.
But you know what else he taught you?
Humility.
That with all of your self-destructive behavior and basically with self-harm, you didn't want to die.
Amen. I didn't.
Right? I mean, they proved to you right then. You're flirting with killing yourself with all of these behaviors. Yeah. But when it really came down to it, you got to look death in the face. You were like, oh, hold on a second. Let me rethink this position. I got a little more to do.
You're absolutely right.
I like that guy.
I do now, looking back. I was upset at the time because I wanted to fight him one-on-one, no weapons. But no, now I'm extremely grateful because it awakened me up to a whole nother awareness. But and that didn't stop there. Wrestling in college, was a whole nother, dominating another man. Showing my, all those years of wrestling and training and combat, I could now protect myself. It was good. It was rewarding. It was healthy in ways, but it was very unhealthy in ways. And I started fighting MMA, and the way that I knew that I couldn't fight anymore because I didn't have any anger towards the man in front of me anymore. I hate to admit this. It's very painful to admit this, but this is a true story. 8th grade wrestling. It was the first tournament of the season. I ended up finishing 25 and 3 or something, and I lost my first match of my 8th grade year. And I don't know, something I blacked out. I tried this move, and he gets me on my back, and he squeezed so tight, and everything. I just experienced in my life started flashing before my eyes. It was and I get pinned. It was humiliating. I'm like, what are you doing? All the workouts, all the training sessions, all the blood, sweat, and tears, and this guy just dominated you like a little girl. And I went in the locker room, and I'm punching things, throwing things, and I vowed to myself, I will not lose again. And I went out there my next match, and you line up. If you guys have never been to a wrestling match, you line up on center lines, you shake hands, and then you go at it. And I looked across from me, and the kid, every kid from that moment forth, I saw my dad's face. And it's sad to say, but that's how much pain and anger and hurt I had, that I would go out there and destroy this kid because I saw my dad. And all the pain, all the memories that I had as a child were coming out, and no one stood a chance against me. I became a dinosaur, and it was like I was invincible. And I fed that for a long time.
Yeah, you bring up a lot of stuff for me, man, because there's certain things that it's not just my age, but there's certain things I can't do because I am not that angry anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't ever remember fearing being hurt. I didn't fear for them to be hurt either. I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
It was all about destruction and just being thrilled that I could just destroy another human being. But that's so far from who I am right now.
Amen.
So I guess the question for you is, how many people do we need to beat up? How many weights do we need to lift before the pain goes away? And then we realize that is not the way. We need to go in here.
Absolutely. I don't know if there's an actual answer for everyone. It's different because I think there's guys that, you witness a lot of MMA fighters. They're fighting out of true anger. Some of them are just angry individuals. So they're grown men who are still battling their demons. I don't know. It just comes a point in your life if you feel like you're one of the chosen ones where you, no matter how many times you try, you flirt with death, whether it was drugs or fighting and weapons. I've done a lot of stupid stuff in my life, and I shouldn't be here. But somehow, some way, I believe a lot of it was my guardian angel, my mother, who was like, "No, God, don't take him, please. Give him one more chance." And I don't know, that's why I know, same with you, same with people that have lived on, who've written books, your guys' radio show, sharing stories like this. We're still here because there's somebody out there struggling who can use this to just get up and stand up and fight one more day, and to believe that there is a brighter day out there, no matter how dark it seems right now. I'm talking to you, whoever's listening, who's crying right now because you've been abused, you've been beat, you have a drug addiction. Guys, let it go. It's a lie. It doesn't feel good. It's just masking your pain. You're better than that. I believe in you. I believe in you. Believe in yourself.
One of the things I wanted to talk to you about with your dad was that although you feel like you're dominating other human beings and you can beat them on a bodybuilding stage, by the way, I'm talking about myself here too.
Absolutely.
And you wrestle and you destroy somebody, or you box and you destroy somebody, and you feel like, yes, I am in control. At some point we step back and realize, maybe I'm just a puppet. I am not in control. Maybe it's my father. Maybe it's all these other things that are making me act like an absolute animal.
Right.
And then you think, okay, what about forgiveness, right? Like, that slays the beast, does it not?
It does.
When you can finally go, I'm okay. I forgive you. I don't have to say that I loved everything that happened, but I can forgive it, and then I don't have to feel like I need to beat up other human beings. How did that affect you?
I agree with you 100% there. Before I answer that, at first I think, especially when you live a life like we have, we have this image of forgiveness like as its weakness, and forgiveness is not weakness. Forgiveness is power. You're not hurting anybody but yourself with bitterness and unforgiveness and resentment. I started to tell you the other day, Joe. I came back from my first semester of wrestling in college, and I was in Ohio, and I've had dreams and visions my whole life. And I had a dream of my dad, and I woke up with this voice like, it's time for you to forgive him. It's time for you to call him up. And it was Father's Day that morning, so I'm like, okay. So I picked up the phone. I mean, I think I had to call my grandmother and actually get my dad's number. I hadn't spoken to him for years. And he goes, hello? I said, Dad? And he goes, hello? Because he hadn't heard from either of his boys in years. And I was like, it's your son. It's Andrew. And, he got choked up right away. It was probably the last person he was expecting to hear from. And I said, Happy Father's Day. He goes, thank you. How are you? Are you still in Maine wrestling? And I'm like, I'm actually in Ohio right now. I'd like to take you out to lunch for Father's Day. He's like, well, he had been, it's a whole nother story. He'd been married and divorced 4 times, and battling with what he's battled with. And he's like, well, Aaron, which is my younger brother, he was 7 at the time. He's like, well, I'm with Wanda and Aaron. I'm like, it's all right. I'm going to treat all you guys. There's some stuff I want to talk to you about. So, I told him to pick the restaurant. I drove to a little Marion, a little farm town I grew up in, and I met him at his favorite restaurant, and I walked to the table, and I hugged him. I could probably count on one hand at how many times we actually hugged in our life.
Did he ever tell you that he loves you?
No, I think that was one of the hardest things, to lose my mom. My mother was such a loving soul, and she probably told us 100 times a day. And not hearing it once from our dad, not even the day of her funeral, it just knocks you down. So we sat down, after we hugged, and he's crying already. And, I think after he realized it, people, he had no family, nobody wanted to be around him. He might have, started thinking, like, what's wrong with me? And I think he became convicted on a lot of things. But so I said to him, first I let him know a little bit, Dad. I'm like, hey, I've struggled with drug addiction, addicted to sex, working at strip clubs, partying, drinking. I said, I'm telling you this just because you don't know anything about me. You don't know your sons, you don't know your kids. And I said, also, I have some issues as a man to man now. I said, I have some things I want to tell you, face to face. And I told him, I said, you know what, Dad, you did some horrible things growing up. And I said, be honest, I don't want to, as a father, I don't want to be anything like you. And I said, as a husband, I don't want to be anything like you as well. I said, there's some things you did that no man should ever do. And I said, that being said, the main reason why I came here today is to tell you that I forgive you. And I said, I don't understand, nor will I ever. And I said, but I just want to tell you I forgive you for everything you've ever done to me and my brother, stepmom. I forgive you. And we went on to have, conversation. I asked him some questions about Vietnam that I know he still struggles with today. But that was, for me, growing into the man that I was becoming and now am, it was so important for me to do that. Because I knew I wouldn't move forward in my life if I didn't do that. So yeah, forgiveness slays the dragon.
Yeah, no doubt.
I think you becoming a dad too. It's gonna. No, I say this, and I'm gonna say this because I have a daughter. She's sitting there, and it's amazing how one of my best times in my whole life was the day that she was born. It was an unconditional love for me that I'm like, here's a baby. She's gonna love me with all my shit, whatever it is, and I'm gonna love her. And it's the first time in your life you have unconditional love, and your babies look at you as you're raising them as you are the protector and all of these things. And we make mistakes along the way with our kids too, but what I wanted to say is it changed me. Having her changes me, the outlook I have towards my mother, because my mother has her things that she was raised with and her things that she carried into her kids that she never knew any better. So she does, we kind of do the best we can. So I'm able to look at my mom now and go, well, I forgive you for those things, because I don't want my daughter to judge me too harshly. So you have babies, and it's a totally different. It's gonna help your heart, because you're gonna be very conscious of what you say and what you're doing, and you're gonna love this baby, and your baby's gonna love you. You'll be a good dad. I know you will be, but I'm just saying it's just a different love, and you'll know what I mean when it comes along.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd ever have kids. I don't know if I ever wanted them. I think it scared me. I know it did. It scared the crap out of me. But as Ashley has continued in with her pregnancy, and you see her belly growing, and you put your hand on there and start talking to him, and I'm excited. Everything that I didn't have, I will be. Everything my dad didn't do, I will do. Everything he did do, hopefully I don't do. But
these babies too, they don't care about all that damage that was there. They love you no matter what, so you just love them back. That's it.
Clean slate.
Right? That's it. It's so easy with kids and babies, because we put our beliefs and we put what we think they need and they want on them, and they're little babies, little kids, and they just want their mom or their dad. That's it.
I think we all, like Heidi was kind of saying, I think we all do the best we can with what we have at that time. And if we could have done better, we would have. And so one of the things I also want to bring out for people who have not been the best parents, that type of thing, of not to give them an excuse, but there are reasons for things. Like, let's take your dad for a second, if we can. Like, when I hear about a guy who's been married and divorced 4 times, he obviously has some issues relating to people.
Right.
So it's not personal to you, although that doesn't help you any. I understand. He just seems like there's a lot of difficulty in that area.
Yeah.
But he did take you to multiple therapists, so in his mind, he was trying to do something, and that was probably the best he could think to do, is to put it in somebody else's hands, because he had no idea what to do.
Absolutely.
And the other part of that, I want to get back to the part that you touched on. He was in the military. He fought in Vietnam, which I've never fought, but I think, did he have PTSD?
Yes.
Okay, so that's...
Still to this day, he struggles with a lot.
And so it's basically ruined his life too, so he's not feeling good about all this. Can you tell us a little bit of what it's like to be raised by someone who has PTSD? Because what they say is that it gives you PTSD symptoms as well, right? Because you're always worried about what's going to happen. You're always worried about trying to manage the other person's feelings just in case they get angry, or if they get very distant from you because they want their space. It makes you feel unloved. Maybe you can touch about some of that. And I remember you talking about you found your dad's medals one day, which I thought was a great story.
Yeah, I'll share that here. Before I do, I just want to say it was growing up with father who fought in Vietnam. God bless all you soldiers out there who died and who fought for our freedom. I love you to death. That's one thing. My heart goes out to soldiers. I don't think we do enough to take care of our veterans when they come back from overseas and the wars they fought. We take our freedom for granted for what these men and women have done. And growing up with, oh my gosh, my dad, it was just like the little things that set him off. And I can imagine going through the jungles of Vietnam, and he shares stories with me. I mean, people getting blown up right in front of him, You know, and they're a family. That's a family out there. You go through basic training. I mean, that's all you guys have out there in the jungle, and anything could kill you at any moment. So you're always on alert and on guard, and that's how he still was. You know, is the slightest littlest things could set him off any time, and his natural reaction was just to attack. And the day that I'll never forget that I shared with you yesterday, I was raised in sports. You know, again, sports and writing is what saved my life. Those were my outlets, and I had accumulated a lot of different trophies and plaques and medals from wrestling and martial arts and baseball, and that was one thing I was proud of in my life. You walk into my bedroom, I had this huge trophy stand, and I made sure I polished it every week and dusted it off, and it was something that made me feel good. And so, you know, I started working out. I got a hand-me-down weight bench set from my cousin Chad, and, you know, probably at the age of 12 and 13, not knowing what I was doing yet, but I would spend good hour or two in my basement, again, probably escaping, and just, you know, starting to learn a little bit about working out. And I saw my dad's army duffel bag that he had saved from the military. I've seen it down there countless times, but I was afraid to go anywhere near my dad. I was afraid to go anywhere near his stuff, so I never in a million years thought of actually opening it. For whatever reason, this day, you know, no one came and checked on us. I mean, so I knew nobody would be down there and would find me looking in it, so I pull it over to the weight bench and I open it up and I'm just pulling through. You know, I remember I find a photo album, you know, them in the jungle, and they're always posing with their guns. You're probably told never to put your gun down. They're in the river and the swamplands, you know, with their machine guns and everything. And I saw the camaraderie against, you know, him and his brothers out there in the jungle, and it was weird because I didn't know anything about my dad. And to see something of his past, of who he was and how he lived, was, to me, I mean, I still wanted to know my dad at that time, regardless of what went on at home. I wanted to know who he was and why he was who he was. And then, you know, I'm digging deeper, and I found these 2 medals. And, like, to me, I'm like, wow, my dad's a war hero, you know. I'm like, well, I see these medals, and I'm like 13, 14 years old, and I'm like, all I can think about how proud I was to display my awards from sports. I didn't even think twice. I was like, wow, this is something I can relate to my father with. So I go upstairs, in Ohio we have basements, and
we did in New York too.
So I walk up the basement stairs, and it opens up into the kitchen. He had his back to me. He was actually in the kitchen washing dishes. And frightened scared little kid I was. I didn't approach my dad for anything, you know. I was too afraid to, and I was like, but here I had something that I figured, like, oh wow, he would tell me some great story of how he saved someone's life, and we could relate and somehow, you know, have a good relationship maybe. And I'm holding 1 medal in each hand, and they're in their little cases that it came in, and I said, Dad. He's like, what? Doesn't even turn around. I'm like, why don't you display these? And I'm looking up at him, and he goes, what? I go, why don't you display these, Dad? And he turns around. He went blank. Like, I don't know what he went back to, what he saw at that moment, but he was no longer in his body. And he was silent. And I'm just standing there. I'm like, Dad? He goes, where'd you get those? And I'm like, I got them in your duffel bag downstairs. You know, he still has a big army bag, and he's like, oh, go put those back. Don't ever get them out. And I'm like, oh, Dad, why don't you display these, Dad? Like, and he goes, and he got lost for a second. He goes, because I'm not proud of them. He goes, let me tell you something. He was in Vietnam on command. We had to run into Vietnam villages. We didn't have a choice. We had to murder women and children, run over them like they were just pieces of trash without hesitation. He said, put those back. Don't ever get them back again. And I froze there for a moment. None of us who've ever been in a war, we couldn't comprehend what some of these guys see. And being a little kid at that time, like, murdered women and children were the only thing I heard. And I'm like, so I went downstairs and I stared at him a little bit, and I put him in his bag. I pulled it, tied it shut, and never again mentioned it until that day on Father's Day, when I confronted him man to man, face to face. And after I told him I didn't want to be anything like him, but I forgave him, I said, Dad, I know it's painful. If you don't want to share anything, that's okay. but will you just tell me, like, what happened in Vietnam? And he told me a few stories, and one of them was, my grandfather, his parents have passed away, but I was raised in church, which is crazy the life that I lived. My grandparents are pastors of church, and and my father even spoke behind the pulpit at times, and it was like, whoa, it's so hypocritical. But he said, but I know they were praying for him the whole time he was over there, and so everything in military is it's chain of command, and who jumps first, who jumps last, everything was recorded, and he was supposed to be the first one to jump out of a helicopter. They're like, I don't know, 5-8 feet above the jungles, and there's 1, 2, 3, they're all just going, and he goes, one of my good friends in Vietnam, he goes, I was supposed to be the first man to jump out. And he grabbed my shoulder and he said, Paul Ray, I'm supposed to jump first. And without hesitation, he jumped out. He jumped on a landmine. Like, to see the pain in my dad's eyes for the first time, like sharing a personal story about his own life and his own struggles. He's like, that was supposed to be me. He's like, I saw his leg blow off right in front of me. And he just shared stories of, like, running into these villages, and, like, they gave women and children weapons, obviously to kill Americans. So, I mean, they had to. They were enemies, if you will. But to hear it, staring into the pain of my dad's eyes as he relived these moments, like, I felt compassion for him. And, I'll never understand, but at that moment I started to forgive him even more.
Right.
It was like, oh my goodness, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't turn a gun on anyone unless it was protect somebody. But women and children just brutally murdering, I don't know. It would haunt me too.
Did your dad have a Foot Locker?
A Foot Locker? What's that?
Well, you're making my father, when he was in the military, he came home with his Foot Locker.
Oh, where they polish his shoes?
Where they put all of his, it was a box, and it had a little latch on it, and all of his paraphernalia was in there. All of his badges were in there, his shoes were in there, his polishing kit, and he called it his Foot Locker.
Okay.
And that was like his sacred...
Yeah. He did.
He did. Oh, okay. So, John, you were in the military. That is something that you guys are issued?
Yeah.
And
basically, they call it a Foot Locker because it's like a suitcase that's at the end of the foot of your bed. They call it your Foot Locker, and that's where you keep everything. You either had, like you go to a gym and you've got a locker. Well, this was, the military's version of a locker. It was just a Foot Locker, like a suitcase. By yay. So.
Interesting. Yeah.
So can you talk to your dad now on almost a even to even basis?
Yeah. Yeah. We communicate, at least every couple of weeks. I reach out. I've done a lot of healing personally in the last 5 years of my life, and I do my best to reach out to him because I know he's lonely. I know he's in pain still. Instead of just sending a text message, I'll call him up and say, hey, Dad, how's it going? My older brother still doesn't talk to him much. There's still a lot of pain and anger that my brother has held on to. And I mean, I don't know. I wish it would heal. You don't have to be best friends with them, but I think there doesn't have to be as much animosity as there is.
One of the things that occurs to me too is that when you lost your mother, which is horrible, especially at that age, your dad lost the mother of his children. There's I know he's remarried at that point, but there's still a connection. There's still grief there because without your mother, that obviously when he sees you, he sees his wife. So there's a connection there. So there's also a loss for him there too. So there's a lot of pain to go around.
There is. And I'm glad that I've gotten to the point now where I asked them how they met. I know how they met, and the stories I've gotten.
The story's creepy. Your parents tell you how they meet. You're like, oh my God, I did not want to hear that. I seriously forget it. I didn't really want to know now.
It was cool though, because losing my mom at 7, I love learning as much as I can about her, And hearing anything about my parents is awesome to me because I missed out on both of them growing up.
So the name on your book, Destined Legend.
Destined Legend.
Tell me what that means.
Whew. I'm going to tell you, I told you I had a lot of dreams and visions in my life, and I know we're getting short on time. 19 years old, here I am, from this little farm town, and I had these dreams of being the next Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I moved to LA, staying with Ed Connors, who was the owner of Gold's Gym, and I did a couple photo shoots, made a little bit of money one weekend, so I pick up and leave Ohio, drop out of college, and thinking I'm the next big thing. And within a year, I realized that I wasn't. And it was so hard and humbling to come back to Ohio, but I knew that there were bigger things for my life, and I had a dream, and I was probably... It was that year I came back from California, so I was 19 years old, and it woke me up in the middle. Well, the dream itself, I was asleep in the dream, and I said, God, the voice of God said, wake up. I want to show you something. And he flew me over the oceans. I remember seeing fish and dolphins and sharks in the sea, and then over the mountaintops at Mount Everest, and then all through different villages and cities and everything. He goes, I hear the voice, you're a destined legend. He says, but you guys are all destined legends. You're all destined for greatness. You all have unique gifts, passions, talents, and abilities within you to change and heal the world with. And that is your purpose. And I immediately wake up. I'm shaking. I'm sweating. I'm like, what in the world? So I always slept with a notebook beside my bed because I always had crazy dreams. And I wrote down destined legend. I'm a destined legend. We're all destined legends, destined for greatness. We all have unique gifts, talents, and abilities to change the world with. And, that's my purpose. So right then and there, I held on to that. I started my first personal training company when I went out on my own after I left corporate America, Destined Legends Training, and it's now evolved into so much. I have so many goals and dreams and visions with it. So we're all destined legends. People, the destined legend. A couple guys at work, Kyle's one. The destined legend is here. I'm like, you're a destined legend too, brother. Like, we all are. But that's where that initial thing came from.
All right, I love that. Yeah, I agree with you. That's part of getting out of that rut, isn't it? Or it's like some people start to do a little better and they just can't get traction in their life. And I think part of it is because they just don't know who they are, number one, and they don't have that meaning and purpose. So I'm glad you found yours. But it changes all the time, though, doesn't it? Like, it expands.
It does. I mean, vision and meaning and purpose is everything, and I think it's got to be bigger than you. If you're just out there trying to be rich and successful for you, I think it's fleeting. So, I mean, when your vision is big enough to impact and empower the world, I think that's when you got it.
Perfect. I want to thank you for being here and your honesty and
thank you for having
all
me.
that being vulnerable.
Thank you.
So everybody, you know what? I'm going to have you do it. We got like 15 seconds left. Tell everybody to buy your book.
Hey, the warrior within, guys. Hey, we all have a warrior within us. We might be battling something, but there's a warrior within you that can overcome anything and everything that you've ever been dealt. Go out there, Amazon. Drew Mitchell, The Warrior Within. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
And this has been the Rise Above Show. I am Joe Perroni.
I'm Heidi Mancini.
And
Drew Mitchell.